Welcome back to another episode of the Think, Learn, Grow podcast. I'm your host, your brother, Mr. West. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, whatever it is that you feel like you need to do to be able to show that you appreciate and are engaged and happy to be back with another episode of the Think, Learn, Grow podcast. We're focused on self-improvement. Please do that. Again, it's your brother, Mr. West, always tapping in with you and always willing and open and available to share something that I hope and pray will be inspiring, encouraging, and beneficial for you. And most importantly, productive for you to be able to help you in your self-improvement journey and being able to grow into a better version of yourself. With that being said, this episode will strive to do the same that we always strive to do, which is to give you some practical advice, practical information, some techniques, some tips, some strategies to be able to grow. Again, this is the Think, Learn, Grow podcast where we focus on thinking, where we know that thinking is a way to find a way to learn. Learn. You're creating an opportunity to grow. And anything that's not growing is dying. So that could be your mindset, that can be your relationships, that can be your finances, that can be your emotional resilience. And that's what we're talking about today, about building resilience, overcoming challenges and adversity. So let's just dive right into it. Overcoming challenges and adversity and really building resilience is very important, especially today. We live in a society that is very pressurized. Stress is something that many, and myself included, may find it difficult sometimes to manage stress. There's always something coming up that can cause stress. There's always something coming up that's in a form of adversity. There's always a challenge in front of us that we need to overcome. So being able to develop resilience, being able to have a strategy, a mindset, being able to know how to manage stress is very important. So I want to be able to share a few things that has helped me, a few things that I've looked into and understand as well about managing stress and being able to have emotional intelligence and knowing how to recognize when you're getting stressed, recognize when adversity is creating anxiety for yourself and how to overcome it, how to manage it, how to persevere and be resilient through it. Again, we live in a day where there's something going on at all times, 24/7. There's things showing up as obstacles. There's things showing up that challenges your will, that challenges your faith, that challenges your emotional intelligence, and realizing that you may not have it all figured out, but not having it all figured out does not give you technically a reason to stress. One thing about stress that I would like to share, stress typically is a sign of not being prepared, right? When you're stressed out before a test, it's because you either lack confidence in your ability to be able to recall information or be able to feel confident that you'll be able to have a good result from the test, or it's that you just didn't prepare yourself. Whenever you're going into unknown territory, there could be stress because you don't know what to expect. And you may be feeling as if you're ill equipped, you're insecure. So, stress are signs of insecurity. But ways that you can overcome it or ways to better manage the stress is to do a lot of the inner work to really build up yourself, build up your value, your self awareness, build up who you know you are and your ability, or should I say, confidence in your ability to be able to handle whatever comes before you. Me being a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan under the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we handle or deal with stress from a perspective of understanding that struggle is ordained. That means that struggle is going to happen and there's purpose behind the struggle. So if you're going through a difficulty, if you have a challenge, if there's an adversity, if there's a trial that's presented to you, understand that it's there for a purpose, not to destroy you, but actually to make you better. You may hear the saying or know about the saying that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? You may hear or understand if you know from a scriptural standpoint in the Holy Quran, it says, with difficulty comes ease, or after difficulty comes ease. It also states that certainly man was created to face difficulty. So we look at it from a perspective, and I encourage us all to look at stress, look at challenges, look at adversity, look at obstacles and trials as something that you are actually made and designed and created to overcome. Once you begin to shift your mindset and realize whatever is being presented to you is actually already put in place for you to overcome it, you just have to discover a way to overcome it. One thing that I tell my daughter all the time is that there is no can't. Can't should not be a part of our vocabulary. Why do you say can't? Why the word can't should not be in our vocabulary? For two reasons. One, can't automatically tells your brain to stop discovering ways to overcome. Can't already tells your brain, it automatically turns your brain off from even thinking about ways to be able to overcome, ways to be able to endure, ways to be able to accomplish any said task or be able to move past any said challenge. You don't even approach the challenge believing that it is something that can be done. So when you use the word can't, you're automatically telling yourself that it's impossible. There is no impossibilities. Anything that you put your mind to, anything that comes up in your mind is a preview that it is possible. The issue that we may come across is that we don't believe that what comes up in our mind is already showing us that it can be done, but we want to know all the ins and outs of how it's going to get done instead of just acting upon the belief that because I see it in my mind, I can bring it into existence. So now it's up to me to discover, to think about it, learn some skill sets, speak to some people, learn from some people in order to get to my end goal. We have to be willing to sacrifice that low self-worth. We have to be willing to sacrifice that old version of ourselves. We have to be willing to sacrifice that non-belief that we can accomplish what it is that we see in our mind, things that we are setting our minds towards, so that we can actually become action takers, become executors of goals, and actually accomplish any said task and overcome any adversity. So let's talk about resilience and developing a framework of resilience, right? So there's a few components to resilience. I want to touch on about three of them. The first one is adaptability, right? One thing about adaptability that you really want to think about is being flexible, right? You cannot control everything. You can only control yourself. You can't control the reactions of other people. You can't control the actions of people. Sometimes you can't control your environment, meaning that you don't know what is going to happen when you step outside your door. You have zero control of it. But what you do have control over is your ability to adapt. So you may check the weather, and the weather says it's going to be a clear and sunny day. Might be a little cloudy, but it's overall going to be a pleasant day, right? So you dress accordingly. But you may walk outside and then you realize it starts raining. Do you just say, you know what, I'm just not going to get all my errands done today? Well, being adaptable or being able to adapt to your environment tells you, okay, it's starting raining. Let me go and get my umbrella, but I'm not going to allow that to stop me from going forward. Right. The same thing with any obstacle or challenge that comes before us. You have a plan, but everything doesn't go as planned. Right. There are things that's going to show up in that plan that we are not able to control or account for. Right. So when things show up as an obstacle, as a point where we need to pivot, that's exactly what we need to do. We go ahead and pivot. We make the adjustments. And life is all about adjustments. So we have a plan to give us a roadmap, but along that roadmap, along that the roadway to get to our destination, there may be potholes. There may be detours that we need to take. There may be pit stops we need to take to be able to refuel and recharge and gather ourselves so that we can make and endure to the destination. So we have to be willing to be flexible. We have to be willing to accept the challenge, right? Because many times when we find ourselves getting disappointed, it's because things aren't going the way we expect them to go. We'll talk about this in maybe later episodes, but expectations is really something that we want to get out of the way. When you think about expectations, you're really setting yourself up for disappointment, right? So it's better to set standards than it is to set expectations. Standards is more so looked at as a guideline. This is what I want to do, and this is the way that I'm going to go about doing it. So regardless of what shows up, though it may be unexpected, I'm still going to make sure that the quality of my work is going to be this. I'm still going to achieve this particular result. I'm not going to allow the obstacles, the trials, the unexpected occurrences that show up stop me from getting to my end goal. But the standard is that whatever it is that I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to stop until I achieve it. Will it take longer than I expect? Possibly. May it take longer than I plan? Possibly, but it's not about how long it takes. It's not about the speed or the pace that I'm going to get it done. It's not about what other people think when it comes to achieving a goal. Did I achieve the goal? That's what it comes down to. And am I willing to be confident that regardless of how long it takes, it's going to be the best that I can deliver? The standard is do my best. The standard is get it done. It's not about expecting it to be done in 24 hours, expecting it to be done by the end of the week. My expectation is not so important. Yeah, you would expect things to you should really can look at expectations as a way to be adaptable. You expect things to come up. That way, if something doesn't come up and you're able to achieve that goal faster than you planned, all praise is due to Allah. That is something to be joyous about. So if you expect that obstacles will show up, you're now prepared. You're less stressed because you already are planning for things to take place. And that's not to say that you should be planning for the worst. You're planning for things to show up so that it doesn't become a stressor for you. It doesn't become so much of a challenge that it disappoints you. It becomes so much of a challenge that you want to turn back and retreat. No, you expect something to come up. So when it does show up, you like, okay, I knew that was coming. So now let me maneuver. Let me figure out a way to get over that. Let me figure out a way to get around that. Let me figure out a way to go through that so that you can still get to your end result. Another component of resilience is optimism. And that goes to what we were just speaking of. It's not about planning for the worst or expecting the worst. Is that you understand that things are going to happen, but you're optimistic, meaning that regardless of what shows up, I'm still going to get to my end goal. Optimism is about being positive and having a positive mindset, right? Having a positive mindset does not mean that negativity doesn't exist. You just don't settle on the negative. You are settling on the positive. What we say in the Nation of Islam is we settle on the best part. We don't settle on the worst part. We settle on the best part. So regardless of what shows up, the best thing to remember is that, hey, first, I'm thankful. And it's one thing about optimism is always having an attitude of gratitude, right? If you're always thankful and understanding that being grateful for the challenges that shows up, because you understand that struggle is ordained. You understand that you were created to face difficulty, and you understand that there's a purpose behind the struggle. It's a purpose behind the trial, and that this is going to develop the greatness within myself. It's going to make me a better version of myself if I'm willing to endure the trial. If I'm willing to get through the test, I'm actually going to get to a better version of myself at the other end of this. So if I'm willing to persevere through the challenge, and I'm looking at it from a positive standpoint, that yes, this is showing up, and no, I didn't expect it. No, I didn't plan exactly for this to go that way. But I know that if I keep going, I'm actually going to learn something. I'm actually going to grow from this. This is going to expose me to a different part of myself that I didn't know was there. It's going to expose certain emotions that I didn't know that I had suppressed or I've never felt before. So now that I feel them, now that I'm going through this, it now gives me an opportunity to be better. It actually gives me an opportunity to learn. And then ultimately, it allows me an opportunity to help the next brother or sister that is coming behind me, or that may potentially go through this, be able to overcome it as well, because I have proof of concept that this is just temporary. That's another part of optimism, is understanding that whatever adversity that you're going through is temporary. When you look back over your entire life, you'll realize that you're 100% undefeated when it comes to setbacks. That didn't mean that they didn't happen. That doesn't mean that the challenge didn't present itself. That does not mean that you didn't have to step back a few steps in order to go forward, but you move forward. I like to say that I don't just go through things, I grow through things. And that's important. Changing your perspective and being more optimistic, being more positive allows you to overcome whatever adversity that much easier. It allows you to be more resilient, because you're not settling on the thing that went so-called wrong. You're realizing that there's more to come. I am going to get over this. I'm going to grow through this and become better. So I want to stay optimistic. The opposite of being optimistic is pessimistic, right? Pessimistic begins to be very complacent. You begin to settle on the fact that things are the way they are. They're not going to change. It goes back to thinking about a fixed mindset where things are what they are, and I'm not going to do anything to improve my situation. I'm just going to let them be. Optimism says that I'm going to be ambitious, that regardless of what's going on, there's a brighter uh, end goal in sight. There's a brighter day. There's sunlight at the end of this darkness. One thing about darkness is not real. We're taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Darkness is just the absence of light. So it's not that darkness doesn't exist, but once you have light, once light enters the building, the darkness vanishes. We understand that darkness is temporary, just like nighttime. When the sun sets, okay, yeah, it's dark outside, but you know, and the optimism in you will let you know, okay, yeah, it's dark right now, but the sun will rise again. So whenever you go through those dark periods in your life, just know that there's sunlight coming. That's optimism. Yeah, I'm going through this period. So let me learn all the lessons that I need to learn in this dark period, so that when the light comes up, I am better. I'm able to better handle the next dark period that shows up in my life. And being able to persevere and learn the lessons in the dark, you appreciate the light that much more. And that's another part of optimism, is appreciating. We talked about gratitude and being thankful, but it's another thing to appreciate, right? Not taking things for granted. Taking advantage of all opportunities is a part of being optimistic, right? Understanding that whatever's showing up in your life is not showing up randomly. There are no coincidences. There are no random acts of life. Everything has a purpose. There is nothing that is created or happening today in your life that is happening just because. No, there's a reason. The because is because you need to see that, you need to grow through that, and you need to learn from it so that you can help yourself move forward in life. And the last component of resilience that I want to speak about is having the skills of problem solving. And that's really what goes to what we're speaking about as far as learning all the lessons in darkness, right? When problems show up, understand that every problem that shows up has a solution. This is why can't should not be in your language or in your vocabulary. because you should be saying, instead of saying the word can't, a better way of articulating ourselves can be, I have not discovered how to do this yet. So it's not that you can't swim. It's not that you can't climb this mountain. It's not that you can't overcome that adversity. You just have not discovered a way to overcome the adversity. You have not discovered how to swim. You have not discovered the skill set that is needed to overcome this particular challenge. That then allows your mind to start thinking, well, how can I learn how to swim? Who do I need to go talk to? Who do I need to learn from? What book do I need to read? What class do I need to take? What mentor do I need to get up under in order to gain the skill set, get the knowledge, and be able to move past this challenge? There's a shift in mindset that has to take place. And then we have to be willing to submit ourselves to the process of unlocking certain parts of our mind that would allow us to move forward in life. And that's where problem solving comes into place, right? So being able to analyze a problem to be able to find a solution and being solution based is so critical today, because there's always an opportunity for people to tell you about their problems, right? Many people just want to be heard when it comes to just telling you their problems. And you have to be willing to step back and realize that not all problems that are presented to you that aren't for you are for you to solve, but you can encourage other people to take the time out to solve their own problems. And a lot of times it comes from just giving your testimony of how you solve problems, right? The way I may solve a problem and the way that you may solve a problem could be two separate things. But the fact that we both solved our problem is the common denominator. So me sharing a situation that I came up against and how I persevered and how I was able to solve a particular problem can encourage and motivate you. And I really don't like to really speak to motivation, but I would like to more so speak to inspiration, because I would rather inspire you, because that lasts a lot longer, because you understand that now the ability to overcome is possible. Motivation means that you're going to have to keep coming back to me to get charged back up. Motivation is temporary. Our true motivation should always be the person that we see in the mirror. When you're not satisfied with what you see in the mirror, that's your motivation. But you should be inspired by looking at other people who have faced that person in the mirror and are motivated by what they see in the mirror to change it. Be inspired that I can do that too. Let that be the reason why you keep going. Looking at different accounts. If you're more spiritual or religious based, you have the Bible, you have the Holy Quran, where you're looking at examples that can inspire you that yes, they faced some difficulty. No, they weren't perfect, but yet they did not allow that to stop them from moving forward and getting the job done. So I can be inspired by that so that I can do the same thing. If you're not spiritual or religious as well, you can look at different people that's in history and say, okay, Michael Jordan persevered. He didn't allow a setback or a loss to be something that caused him not to try again. A missed shot. Uh, Many are quoted in saying that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? That's the same thing as a way to inspire you to not give up, not surrendering, not retreating, not bowing down to the challenge or bowing down to the problem, but finding a solution and be willing to keep fighting until you get to your solution. That's all resilience is all about, being able to endure until the end. So let's talk about some practical ways to build emotional resilience and handle stress, right? For me, I'm all about reps. The more opportunities I give myself to overcome adversity, the more opportunities I give myself to rise above emotions. And that's one thing we also study in the Nation of Islam, which I would encourage anyone who's watching this to just become a part of the study of self, right? We have a self improvement course that we are all engaged in, which is self improvement, the basis of community development, that is given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You don't have to be a registered Muslim in the Nation of Islam to be engaged in this course, but I would encourage anyone to get these study guides and study them. And specifically, when it comes to resilience, is study guide number 18, which is rising above emotions into the thinking of God. That is so important today because our emotions are played upon in every turn. Our emotions are used against us by media, used by marketing and advertisements. When it comes to everything in life, our emotions are played on, whether it's politics, uh, everything, social media, it's all triggering our emotions. And if we don't know how to manage or how to be emotionally resilient, we can find ourselves making emotional or impulsive decisions that don't necessarily benefit us or take us to the highest level of ourselves, right? So, being able to engage in this study and understanding the importance of rising above emotions, and it's not saying that you don't. What's the best way of saying this? It's not to say that you don't take a look or feel the emotions, but not allowing the emotions to dictate your decision making, right? It's understanding and observing and being aware of your emotions, but then rising above those to really get to a reason, making a rational, reasonable decision that is going to move you forward and not allowing the emotions to just trigger you to do anything, which ultimately could be to your detriment because you're not thinking logically, you're not moving mathematically, which is the most important thing to do because you have to be calculated, you need to be strategic, and you have to be willing to analyze the situation um, non emotionally. After you've dealt with the feelings, now you have to be able to say, okay, what is the right thing to do? It's not always about what feels right, but what is right. So that's so important. But ways to be able to build emotional resilience and handle stress is reps. The first time you are involved in a stressful situation, the first time you have to deal with a certain problem that you've never dealt with before, you may not get it right the first time, right? So the more you encounter challenges, the better you get at it. It's the ability to get back up. Um, what did Aaliyah say? Dust yourself off and try it again, right? It's not about getting it right or being perfect all the time. And that's easy to be said. Sometimes I still exhibit certain levels of wanting to be a perfectionist, wanting things to be exactly right. Like, for example, for podcasts, I don't necessarily like to stumble over my words, but that's a part of being human. You're going to make mistakes. That's the whole thing, is that being willing to make a mistake and then learn from it so that you don't keep repeating the mistake. Now, that's the difference too. It's not that you don't make mistakes, right? Like, so I keep referring back to the Nation of Islam because that's my basis, and everything that I think about is the way of life that I'm subscribed to, right? And we don't move about thinking as if mistakes don't happen, but we are taught that mistakes should not exist, meaning that once they happen, it's for me to correct and then not to repeat. It's about improving ourselves and being able to grow and become a better version of ourselves. And a part of that is by repetition. When you make a mistake, you don't repeat that mistake. You learn from the mistake, you correct that mistake, and then you strive not to repeat that same mistake the same way that you did the first time, right? That does not mean that you're perfect. That does not mean that you're never going to do make a false step or make a wrong move. You are going to make those because you're learning yourself. You're learning different things, and you have zero control of everything, but you do have control of yourself and how you respond to it. Right? Just like the quote or the saying goes that life is 90% what you do about it, 10% of what happens to you, right? But 90% of how you respond to it. And I may not be saying it exactly the way that you heard it, but you understand what I'm saying. Life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% what you do about it, right? So how you respond to situations, how you plan out and how you move about executing what happens after the problem shows up is where the meat and potatoes of life is all about. It's not about being perfect. It's about striving for perfection, meaning that you don't settle with the way things are. You're always looking for ways to improve, as we said on this podcast before. And it's always reminded to us is that the biggest room in all of our lives is the room for improvement. So we should always be willing to walk into that door and realize, okay, I've got some cracks in here I need to fill. There's always something that can be done. I can always freshen up the paint in this room for improvement. I can always tighten up the pipes and the plumbing. I can always do better. And if you get to a point where you feel like there's nothing else you can improve, either you're perfect or you're denying the reality that there's something that needs to be done in life, right? So it's all about repetition, and it's all about willing to endure and keep moving forward. Again, self-improvement and becoming a better version of yourself is a journey. It is not a destination. Success is not about the result, it's about willing to continue to get results, right? So that's why we say maintaining success, right? You can achieve certain levels of success, but there's so many different versions of success because it's all predicated on how you view it. You know, the first success that you have on a day is that you woke up. That's You're successful. You woke up, you're breathing, you're on the right side of the earth, so to speak. So you have reached success, but it's about maintaining it, meaning what else can I do now that I have this accomplished? What else am I going to do to keep the momentum going forward, right? You don't get complacent, you don't get stagnant, right? So that's what it's about when it comes to building emotional resilience and handling stress is reps, you know, continue to put yourself in situations to learn and to grow. And when you keep doing that, you don't leave room for you to get stressed because you're not training, right? It's all about training. It's all about muscle memory, right? The more opportunities that you put yourself in to be able to take challenges, accept challenges, and move forward, the stronger your ability is to overcome adversity. So don't stop taking those reps. Don't stop accepting those challenges. Don't stop striving to solve problems within yourself. Don't stop looking at yourself. Again, going back to the study course that we're in, self improvement, the basis of community development. We all should be working on ourselves. And if all of us are working on ourselves, we can make a better community for ourselves because we're in a community of those that are involved in self-examination, self-analysis, and self-correction, right? We're all striving to correct those things that appear wrong in our lives and in ourselves so that we don't allow them to exist and then cause other people to stifle. Not that we want people to fall short, not that we want to rub people the wrong way, but if we do, we have a way and a method to be able to correct it so we don't continue to do it, right? So that's how we can look at building emotional intelligence, emotional resilience, and handle stress. And there's more than one way to do that. And that's why I encourage us to utilize the comment section that anything that we discuss, put it in the comments how you handle this and suggestions of what you do to be able to be resilient, emotionally resilient, being able to handle stress, what techniques and tips and things that you use, or which tips and techniques that you've heard that you're going to use and are using that is beneficial to you to inspire the next person to give it a try. No one has all the answers but God, right? So He's the best knower. So understanding that we all can learn from one another, and collectively we can build a community of those that are helping and encouraging each other. So that is this episode of the Think, Learn, Grow podcast, building resilience. Overcoming challenges and adversity. Don't be afraid of challenges. Don't be afraid of adversity. Don't be afraid to struggle. Don't be afraid to strive to be better every day, and understanding that as long as your standard is that I want to be better, you don't have to worry about expecting everything to be perfect. You don't have to expect things to not arise. You should actually expect things to show up, and also understand that and expect that when things show up, you can overcome it. You were made to overcome it. Again, struggle is ordained. That means that struggle is meant for you to get through and grow through, because it's going to develop greatness in you so that you can be able to move forward and grow in life. So tap in, family. This has been another episode of the Think, Learn, Grow podcast, where we think and find a way to learn. We learn so we can create an opportunity to grow, and understanding that if it's not growing, it's dying. That could be your mindset. That can be your relationships. That can be your emotional resilience. If you're not working on it, it's working on you. So tap in, family. Like, follow, share, comment, subscribe. Tap in, family. Reach out. And then again, utilize utilize the comment section to express what you feel has been helpful to you. Tap in, follow me on social media. I am Mr. West on Instagram. I am underscore Mr. West on Twitter or X, or however you find me on social media. Definitely tap in, family. I appreciate your time. And again, thank you for coming to Think, Learn, Grow podcast. Peace.